What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Study Hall here on YGOU University. My name's Tam, and I'm joined by this fantastic cast. I've got
Bryce. I'm here taking notes. Study Hall. And I'm here next to me is someone named Alex. Why
Yep,
don't you
I'm
introduce
Alex.
yourself? Sorry, this is straight vodka.
and across the table we have
Michael.
what Study Hall is for the unenrolled is we take a bunch of your guys' Yu-Gi-Oh topics as well as some of our own, and we sit down and we discuss them for your amusement, entertainment, and knowledge. So I'm here because Kevin and Jeremy
May he rest in peace.
are a bunch of cowards. They're what was the word you used?
Truants.
Truancy.
Truancy.
Well, that's
They're-
accurate. They are truants.
They are tried and truants.
Committing truancy.
So yeah, how's your guys' weeks in Yu-Gi-Oh?
I didn't play any, but I did see that there was some new cards released in the form of TCG exclusives. Like my new Danger best friend, Opakogo. He's pretty terrible, but there's some sweet Time Thief cards. And if you haven't, join the Time Thief Facebook page, because that's where all the real players are at.
I feel like I'm in a time loop. Like this is the third time we've attempted to record this podcast.
I have amnesia.
Thanks, Cody. Alex, how was your week?
Great. I won the local this weekend, undefeated with
Burning Abyss.
Yep.
Right? How did I know?
Yep. I summoned monsters till they died.
What?
And it was great.
Are you running Deco Sekka?
No, Sekka's Light is the card you're thinking of.
It is. We recorded this all before. This is a very canned conversation.
I would like Tam to tell the story of why this is our third time recording.
or
Or maybe we can have our producer
See you in the
interject.
fourth time we record.
yeah. Cody forgot to hit the button. But it's chill. It's chill. It's not like we were halfway through topic 3. We weren't. Mike, how's your week?
I don't know. I haven't watched it.
Though I don't play, I have seen that my bays have gotten some recent support.
Which is?
The TG monsters, Tech Genus, if you so will. They're getting a Link monster and some other goodies.
That's pretty hype.
Yeah.
I remember playing like a TG Quasar deck way back in the day. Now,
That's pretty sick, man.
the reason that the reason that me and Mike are on this podcast, we haven't played in a while. It's our job is to ask the questions and jump into the podcast like the viewer at home. So if we have any questions or whatever, don't just jump in and ask and educate us. We're getting learned over
I'm
here.
just here to
This
answer
is my first
questions.
session.
That's my job.
So with that, I want to go ahead and move on to topic 1. Topic 1 is counter speed actions. Counter speed cards. Spell speed 3. And so first off, for my new players, somebody who's never touched a Yu-Gi-Oh card in their life, what do counter spells do? Counter speed.
Counter traps?
Counter traps. Thank you, man.
You're good, man. Should have done those tongue twisters before. That's what I'm saying. But a counter trap is
A counter trap is a kind of trap that responds directly to a type of card, and it would usually negate it. And it is spell speed 3, which means cards under spell speed 3 cannot respond to it.
So spell speed 2 being
Quick
quick
effect.
effects
Yeah.
or what's the
There's
lightning
quick
bolt
play
called?
spells.
Quick play spell. That was where the proper
Yeah.
noun I was looking for. A quick play spell. And then normal spell speed 1, slow ass.
essentially you can only respond to a counter trap with another counter trap, meaning that unless you know that your opponent is going to play a counter trap, anything that you do with your counter trap is probably not going to get stopped.
That's very counterintuitive.
I don't want to say the word counter anymore. Let's try and do the rest of the topic without it. So, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. How relevant is this in 2019? I've been to locals like 3 times in the past month, and I haven't seen any.
Well, these traps with the little arrow symbol, I can't remember what they're called, but
Stop.
yeah, they're pretty shit. They're really slow. Yeah, you gotta set traps, and then there's new traps so you can play them from your hand, or just set them and activate them immediately. And those are the good ones. And if you can't do that, then you should probably just quit.
Alex, thoughts?
My favorite counter trap right now is Red Reboot, which counters trap cards and says they can't play trap cards for the rest of the turn.
Red Reboot.
Yeah, you pay half your life points to use it from your hand to respond to a trap card.
Do you think traps should have been designed as hand traps to begin with? Do you think that would have made the game better or worse? Maybe make them a little less powerful, but like they're truly traps as opposed to whatever.
I think in the beginning, I think they were good as they are because they're slower, but they have a bigger upside than like something like a count or a quick play spell or something like that. But anymore, unless you're playing like a dedicated trap deck that has a bunch of stuff meant for taking the game to multiple turns, then I don't think they should have a place in your deck unless they're searchable.
Unless they're searchable.
Yeah, because then you could get away with playing like one copy and then search it as the defense for your aggression.
Okay. You mean like and this is throwing it back. Infernity. Infernity barrier.
Yeah,
that card is searchable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, traps are not good.
Generally, unless you're playing a trap deck.
They're just too slow. The game is just like I want to interact on my turn. I want to end things on my turn, and traps are for the most part I'm going to end them on your turn. And so like I would rather just be better at playing my game as opposed to disrupting your game, which is what traps are really good for.
But in some instances, that sort of play style can be better than wanting to do everything on your turn, like the more interactive. Well, interactive in quotations, because if you're playing just like a bunch of floodgates, it's interacting, but in a sense, like it's making so your opponent can't do anything. So it's like, I don't know. It's like it's kind of interaction, but you just win the game.
Well, I like what I've seen them what they've been doing with trap cards like over the years, like with Breakthrough Skill, how like it's got more than one use, or recently with Impermanence, yeah, how you can use that from your hand. I think that's really neat, and I think that's an interesting way to bring back trap cards. Because normally it's like set end your turn, and then someone usually will end up twin twistering you or using a monster effect to just get rid of it.
Yeah, but like, so you bring up Twin Twister, you bring up all of this. Is there a slight metagame of like, I don't have to play Spell and Trap Hate because nobody's playing half of that sentence?
I would say generally people don't play that in their main decks. In some instances, depending on if the metagame is more like slow and less combo, then I would say some people do. I know specifically earlier this year in Europe, they would play Twin Twisters in the main because they didn't have like Summon Sorceress after the ban list, so like the combo decks just weren't nearly as relevant, although still quite good. But people would, in those sort of scenarios, I think people cut hand traps for like Spell Trap Hate. So usually it's like one or the other, or people play like a mixture of both, but it's like less consistent to see one or the other then.
So the last point that I think that I could possibly come up with is we have a new version of counter traps. They're just hand traps. Ash is just as good as a counter trap, and the only thing that can stop Ash is something that stops Ash.
I mean,
right?
Literally only Solemn Strike, which is a counter trap and way too slow to stop it, or Called by the Grave, which is a card specifically made to stop hand traps.
So like, this is like the best thing we have.
Yeah,
is these new monsters that play out of your hand.
For like playing on your opponent's turn, yeah, I think those are the best. Although they are pretty weak compared to like your standard trap card.
Do you think that counter traps will ever make a comeback?
I think it's possible. What they need to do is probably just make the traps that they do print like substantially better, because I mean that's just what they've done recently with like some of them, like evenly matched and impermanence. Like they just make them faster or better just generally. So I think they just need to do something like that if they want to make trap cards better. But I mean,
Alex?
I don't like the hand traps being like the way that Konami is going. I would like to see like more powerful trap cards, because the cool thing about trap cards is that they like telegraph themselves, just because you can see how many there are on the table. And
yeah.
yeah.
You get to play
I
around
agree
it.
with that.
You get to look at your hand and be like, I know I have to deal with that as opposed to guessing. Well, he might have an Ghost Ogre. I guess I'll find out. Boop. He did.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that aspect.
Yeah.
It's like a new game.
Yep.
I forgot.
Yeah.
I missed that out.
Yeah.
Like you like play a monster, you're like, oh, they didn't bottomless it. What could
They
it
looked
be?
at that one, not the other one.
Maybe they had Mirror
Yeah.
Force. They didn't bottomless me. Maybe I'll put my monster to defense mode. Oh, I played around Mirror Force. And then I don't know. Someone liable to kill that one. Something like that.
Yeah. It's just like I don't know. It's different. It's not worse.
Yeah.
It's not better. It's different. And I think like you get like counter fairies used to be a thing, right? And they were playable enough to play counter traps, right? I'm not positive like an unbelievable meta sense. I'm not sure they were ever tier 1, but like they were playable enough and they had cool effects when you did this cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine if like your counter traps at the very last of it said search another one, you can play it and then play the rest of the turn?
I think
Search another copy of this and put it face down or something.
I feel like that'd be pretty hard to like incorporate, just because then I feel like a lot of people would try and play control.
What's wrong with that?
I personally don't think that there's anything wrong with playing control. I think probably the weakest part about trying to play a control deck right now is that it only seems like there's one relevant trap card like per meta. Like when Zodiac's were out, there was only Barrier and then
Maybe Strike.
Yeah, and then Strike, and then last format was the last meta was evenly matched, and then now it's like Impertinence. I don't really hear any other trap cards besides that.
Can you think of any?
I mean, people in Alter guys then play like goes and match, rivalry. Those or
Yeah, their deck list is
rivalry.
like 30 traps.
Ooh.
To like 25 traps.
So yeah, and it did win the most recent.
I actually don't know anything about that deck.
It's the trap deck, and the monsters replace themselves essentially.
And they have one of the monsters is you bounce any Altergeist card to bounce a card your opponent controls, and like the way you get that guy is a card that summons itself when you play trap. So you like an average like opposing turn would be like they summon something and you're like use my trap on it, and then you bring out your next wave of defense essentially, and then
That sounds cool. That sounds very cool. That sounds like an appropriate use of traps.
Yeah.
It's a good trap deck. I mean, but the problem I think a lot of people have with like trap decks is like if it can be very polarizing. Like if you're playing, especially depending on who goes first and second, or if person going second has red reboot, it's just like it's either like yes or no. But I mean, that can be said for the combo decks too. Like, yes, I have a hand trap. Yes or no, I don't have one. I lose. And you're going against like a control deck. If they get to their game plan, like there's not much you can do about it. Even if you have like 4 or 5 extenders, they just have like a 3-card like trap set up, and you can't get. There's nothing you can do about it either.
So I guess the other thing is like when you compare Yu-Gi-Oh to other card games, our card game, and this is a more true now than ever. Our card game's a board game because of
the zones.
Because of the zones and how much that matters. But like, there's not a lot of mystery when it comes to on board that that other card games do. And I'm thinking about the other two big two, Magic and Pokemon. Right? There's never any face down cards in Magic that my opponent doesn't know. Like, oh, I have to be careful of that thing. It's always, hey, I'm gonna tap my mana. I'm gonna play this thing from my hand. It's a hand trap. Counter spell is a hand trap. I just pay 2 for it as opposed to just like putting it in my discard pile, like in our game.
Which is a big difference.
It's a huge difference,
Yeah.
and we've taken and gotten away from. I don't know how Pokemon works, at least not anywhere near competitive. I don't know if they have anything hand trap wise. I don't know what I'm allowed to do on my opponent's turn.
You can only play on your turn.
Yeah, so like that's not even a thing that happens. But because of how telegraphed regular traps are, they can be played around. Whereas hand traps, you just have to guess or assume.
Or
Yeah.
just hope you draw a Call by the Grave.
Yeah,
Which
or
is
hope
like-
you drew an out
Yeah.
of your 40 card deck. Is there anything else you guys want to add? This was about counter traps, but it ended up being like trap meta discussion. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add?
I feel like the last good counter trap they made was like Psalm Strike, and that was definitely like power crept from all the other former like counter traps, besides like Warning maybe. So I think if they're gonna make something better than that, then yeah, that'd be crazy.
Yeah, I think because the one they made after that was Scolding, and that was very like niche in certain decks. It was slightly powerful and like splashes, but it really wasn't that good.
There was a card that searched 3.
Ariadne.
Yeah. I remember that.
In a
That's
Perform
cool.
House.
Yeah. Definitely remember that.
It was cool, but it was a bummer.
Yeah. Totally.
You draw that with Luster, you just add 3 counter traps. Nuts.
Neato. So with that, I think we're gonna bring this. Alex, anything?
Nope.
Sure.
Traps are cool. The last cool regular trap was Dimensional Barrier, and then they nerfed it by making Link Monsters.
Yeah.
Because Dimensional Barrier says list or declare a type of monster, and your opponent can't, or like Synchro Xyz Fusion, and then they can't make that.
Can't make
but
that.
then Link isn't on that card, so.
Whoops. So with that, that's another good topic. I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna write it down after the break. With that, we're gonna jump into topic 2.